Are you a cook or are you a woodworker? Because I see a lot of woodworkers just building really crappy shop cabinets. And their justification is, well, it's a shop cabinet. And I can hear the justification already. I mean, butt joints and glue and a couple of nails, they're plenty strong enough. They've never broken for me. But when you build your kitchen, you want it to be dovetails in solid hardwood throughout the build. And I get it. I built a kitchen like that and it turned out totally awesome. But if you think about it, where are you spending the majority of your time as a woodworker? Probably in the shop. So why not spend the extra time to really make the shop look nice and be enjoyable to use every day? So that was my justification for why I went and did just complete dovetails on a bunch of drawers for this miter cabinet stand. Now this video is about building my miter saw station and the 2 cabinets that go along with it. And like you, I watched a lot of videos on YouTube to try and figure out how I should build my miter station, but no one answered the questions that I really wanted to know the answers to. So I'm going to start out by talking about the design considerations I did for my miter station so you can better design your own to your specifications. First of all, what miter saw? I settled on the Bosch, and this is mainly for 2 reasons. Both are based on what I like to make, and the Bosch has a ton of reach, so it allows me to cross-cut things that are really, really long. I can't remember what the exact dimensions are, but it was more than a lot of the competitors. And it also has a lot of depth, so I can have a 12-inch by 12-inch by 5-inch block of wood that I'm going to make a bowl out of, and I can cross-cut it. And that was pretty important to me. The other thing that's really nice about the Bosch is the design is very compact, so it doesn't protrude a lot and take a lot of space up in the shop. Even though I have a pretty large shop, having the miter saw waste a lot of space just didn't make a lot of sense. It should be obvious, but the main goal of the miter station is to have miter saw in the middle of something where your work pieces can be supported on both sides, and so the saw's table is level with these guys. Now there's another way of doing this, and I see a lot of people put the saw on top of the cabinets and then have another cabinet raised to the height of the wood, or to the height of the table, I guess, of the miter saw. And that just didn't make sense to me. Why build another additional thing to put on top? Just make a cabinet. The cabinet height was also really important to me, and the exact height is really dependent on the height of my table saw. So here's my miter saw station, my miter saw cabinet, and the table saw, and I wanted the height to be just perfect to support something when I'm cross-cutting long sheets of plywood or long pieces of wood on the table saw. Granted, with the miter saw station, I may not be doing this as much, but I've already done it once, and it's been really handy to have this additional support over here. And for the cabinet depth and how deep it should be, I went with 24 inches to the front of the cabinets, an additional inch of overhang on my top, and it's just standard kitchen depth. And the reason why that works really well is because it's a good depth where you can still reach things that you might want to attach to your wall. Just go with standard kitchen depth. And of course, the other nice thing about a 24-inch depth cabinet is 24 inches or just a little bit less than that is exactly half the width of a sheet of plywood, which gives you a little bit better layout and use of plywood. The next big question is how long should each of the cabinets be? And if you think about it, you're going to get lumber that's either 8 foot or 10 foot in length. And so you want to be able to cross-cut those 10-foot lengths. And so for me, that meant I really want to be able to have ideally about 8 feet to one side and 10 feet to another side, so I could cross-cut both lengths whenever I need to. Now, if you don't have as much room in the shop as I do for 2 full-length cabinets, you probably want to make one longer than the other, and that's going to depend on if you're right-handed or left-handed. I'm right-handed, so I want to operate the saw with my right hand and probably hold things down with my left hand. And so I want to be able to hold my pieces with the left hand and have more space on the left side than I would normally on the right side. You can always flip things on end if you have to cut things that are longer than you can cut with one way. Now for me, the very specific actual width of my cabinets is going to be dictated by something else, which I'll talk about in just a little bit. So the cabinet count, well, obviously I have 2 cabinets, one on each side of the saw, but
each one is divided up into 3 pieces. And if you're going to have 2, you might as well just have 3 because the center section can share the same vertical portions and just kind of maximize your use of wood and space. Don't build 3 separate cabinets and screw them together. That's just silly and a waste of plywood. I think the next question that I had, and a lot of people have, should you have some doors and have shelves, or should you have drawers? And if you notice, I just went with drawers. I think cabinets with shelves and doors make a lot of sense on upper cabinets. But on lower cabinets, they're deeper, and you don't want to lose that space in the back. So a drawer allows you to, a full extension drawer, I might add, allows you to really maximize the use of that space. You can get way in the back there. And I know what some people are thinking. Hey Corbin, I could have a door and then a drawer that slides out. And I've seen some people do this in kitchen designs. It's just a terrible idea. Don't make people do 2 operations. You don't want someone to open a door and then pull out a drawer. It just doesn't make any sense. If you're gonna have a drawer, just have a drawer to start with and don't put a door there. Now, one of the things I was really interested in when I designed this was how big and how many drawers should I make in my cabinet? And no one seems to talk about this, so let me discuss it in detail. Now, first of all, I wanted full extension drawers. I wanted to be able to get all the way in the back. If you're just building pure wood drawers without any hardware, you're not gonna be able to open them all the way. They're not gonna slide smooth, and they're not gonna shut so smoothly as that. So don't sell yourself short and try and build solid wood drawers or plywood drawers that have like wood slides. They're just not gonna work as well. Like, just don't do it. And over here on my CNC cabinet build that I did a while back, I made some dovetail drawers, and I used some hardware that covered up the sides. It was just cheap Home Depot hardware. Now Blum makes some of the best drawer hardware, undermount, concealed, can't see anything, doesn't hide the dovetails. And a lot of people don't buy it because it seems really expensive, but they aren't that much pricier if you buy them locally. I bought mine at my local woodworking hardwood lumber store, and they weren't too expensive. However, for just about the same price, you could buy them online at some resources, which I'll post below. Not Amazon. Amazon charges an arm and a leg. And so check out the prices there. It might be pretty reasonable for you. And once I settled on a drawer hardware using Blum, for a 24-inch deep cabinet, that meant I would be using 21-inch deep drawers. So the length of the drawer, how deep it is now decided. And the width wasn't quite as easy to figure out. Now, I like wide drawers. And for a roughly 7-foot length cabinet with 3 separate sections in it, meant about a 26-inch wide drawer. But my actual width was entirely decided by the Gridfinity system. And if you haven't heard of Gridfinity, it's an open source architecture system thing for 3D printing to have an organization system. And I used Gridfinity for my CNC drawer to organize it, and I absolutely loved it. So I designed the interior width of my drawer based on the Gridfinity grid size of 42 millimeters. So I picked 15 times 42 millimeters, which gave me 630 millimeters, which is pretty close to 24 7/8 in freedom units because I'm stuck in America. And I wanted really strong drawers, so I decided to use 5/8 of an inch thick Baltic birch plywood for them and 1/2 inch thick bottoms to make it really strong. Once you have those parameters, you can figure out exactly how wide the inner opening of the drawer should be, of the cabinet for the drawer based on the Blum spec. You have to learn to read the Blum spec, but honestly it's not that hard. You just figure it out. I did it parametrically in Autodesk Fusion, so inside my design I could just input the numbers of what I wanted and I could figure everything out based on that. Now for the drawer heights, I knew I wanted to store a bunch of screws and tools, not very tall tools, in a lot of the drawers. And I figured about 2.5 inches was a good height for this. Add in the 1/2 inch thick bottom that I was planning on using, and then a 1/2 inch inset on the bottom, which is required from the Blum undermount hardware. And that gave me a 3.5 inch tall drawer for the small height drawers. I picked a 10-inch tall drawer to hold taller things such as some saws. However, in practice, I'm not so sure if I'm going to keep a lot of my power tools in here. I haven't quite decided that, and I'll kind of figure out that later based on use. I went with some 8-inch tall drawers in order to store a lot of bits and whatnot upright vertically, and I think that was a good decision. And then I have some 6-inch tall drawers to hold tools which are just a little bit taller, such as my wood planes and whatnot. And one of the things I'm doing is removing a lot of the stuff which I had on my wall. A lot of the tools were up here, and the problem I had is they were encroaching on my space to actually work on. And I might actually eliminate these, and that way I could have a larger work envelope. And as for the number of drawers, I went with a whole bunch of the small ones, particularly on the top, and my other cabinet is just a mirror of this one because I wanted symmetry in the design. I think I wish I would have put a couple more of the shorter drawers instead of one of the taller ones here, just because I have a lot of tools which are not so tall. But so far it seems to be working out. Take a look at the design to see exactly what I did. Hey guys, this video is just getting way too long, so I decided to break it up into multiple parts. So in the next part, I'm going to cover some of the CAD and how I actually did some of the design for it. And then I'm going to go over how I figuring out just the number of sheets of plywood that I needed using a plugin to figure out that estimate and do some of the layout so I could go ahead and efficiently cut it out. And then finally, I'm going to talk about some of the assembly, some of the finishing, and yeah, we'll go from there. So see you guys then. Bye.